Don't act innocent, Adana. You've been taken from me all my life. Taking what? We are sisters. Every single thing I ever wanted somehow found its way to you.
I never stole your destiny, Amara.
In the old days, when the moon was believed to listen, and the wind carried secrets from one compound to another, there lived in the heart of a great savannah village 2 twin sisters who looked so alike that even their own mother sometimes had to study their eyes before calling their names. Their village was called Akanbi, a place of red earth, singing birds, raffia roofs, and ancient baobab trees that stood like silent elders watching the lives of men. The people of Akanbi were farmers, hunters, weavers, and traders. Every market day, women balanced baskets on their heads as if they had been born with the strength of the earth in their necks. At night, children gathered around fires to hear stories of clever tortoises, stubborn spirits, and the terrible price of envy. The twins were named Adana and Amara. At birth, the old women of the village had clapped and ululated, saying twins were a sign that heaven had smiled upon the household. Their mother, Ankem, had wept for joy. Their father, Obiora, had slaughtered a goat and shared meat with neighbors. For many years, the family was spoken of with admiration. But as the girls grew, the elders began to say something else. Though their faces were the same, their spirits were not. Adana, the first to cry at birth, grew into a girl with a quiet smile and a heart so soft that even wounded birds seemed to trust her. She was patient with old people, gentle with children, and respectful to strangers. When she laughed, people laughed with her. When she sang while pounding yam, women in nearby compounds slowed their hands just to listen. Amara was beautiful too, so beautiful that some said she was like a river at sunset. But inside her lived a restlessness that no one understood. She wanted to be seen first, praised first, chosen first. If Adana wore beads, Amara wanted coral. If Adana fetched 10 calabashes of water, Amara wanted people to notice that she fetched 11. If Adana was thanked, Amara wanted applause. And this might have remained only a small darkness in the heart, the kind that elders correct with counsel and time, if life had not made the mistake of loving one sister more openly than the other. For in Akanbi, beauty could draw the eye, but kindness captured the soul. Whenever the women of the village needed help during harvest, they called for Adana. When a sick old widow needed soup, it was Adana who carried it. When the chief's youngest child wandered near the thorn bushes, it was Adana who lifted him and returned him to safety. Even the goats followed her, as though they knew goodness when they saw it. At first, Amara hid her bitterness well. She would smile with her lips and sharpen her heart in silence. But hearts do not sharpen quietly forever. One harmattan evening, while dry wind swept dust through the village paths and the cooking fire smelled of pepper soup and roasted maize, the twins sat with other maidens outside the compound, plaiting one another's hair. The young men of Akanbi were returning from the wrestling grounds, their bodies shining with sweat and palm oil. Among them was Chinedu, the son of the blacksmith, a tall, broad-shouldered young man known for his strength, but also for his calm manner and thoughtful speech. Many girls in the village had watched Chinedu from the corners of their eyes, but Chinedu watched only Adana. As he passed, he greeted the maidens politely. They all answered with giggles, lowered lashes, and playful smiles. But then he stopped, reached into the fold of his cloth, and brought out a string of blue beads. The chatter died instantly. "These," he said, his voice steady, are for the one whose kindness shines brighter than beauty. Everyone knew. Before he even turned toward her, everyone knew. He held the beads out to Adana. Amara's fingers froze in someone's hair. A few girls covered their mouths in excitement. One old woman passing by chuckled and said, "Ah, the moon has chosen where it will shine tonight." Adana blushed and lowered her head. "You honor me too much," she whispered. Chinedu smiled. "No, I only speak what the village already knows." That was the moment something terrible took root inside Amara. It was no longer ordinary jealousy. It was not the childish desire to have what another had. No, it became hunger, a hot, dry hunger, the kind that makes a person look at their own blood and see not a sister, but a shadow standing in the way of sunlight. That night, while the twins lay on their sleeping mats, Adana touched the blue beads and smiled to herself in the dark. "Are you awake?" she asked softly. Amara kept her eyes open, staring at the thatch roof above them. "Yes." "Do you think," Adana said, almost shyly, "that Chinedu truly meant what he said?" Amara turned and forced sweetness into her voice. "Of course he did. Why would he not?" Adana laughed gently. "I do not know. My heart is beating like a drum." Amara said nothing. After a while, Adana slept, but Amara did not. She listened to the insects outside. She listened to the breathing of her parents. She listened to the silence of the compound. And in that silence, she whispered to herself, "Everything they give you should have been mine." From that day forward, the village began openly speaking of the match between Adana and Chinedu. Though nothing had been formally announced, everyone could see it was heading there. Even Chinedu's mother began to smile whenever Adana came near the forge to bring food or greet the family. Amara watched all this, and each day her resentment deepened. It showed in small ways first. She began forgetting Adana's whopper when they went to the stream, leaving her to carry loads alone. She accidentally spoiled Adana's hair before gatherings. She told tiny lies that made Adana appear foolish, though none of them lasted, because Adana's goodness always uncovered the truth without even trying. That made things worse. The more kind Adana remained, the more monstrous Amara felt beside her. One afternoon, as the sun burned white above the palm trees and most villagers rested indoors, Amara slipped away toward the edge of a kanbi, where an old woman named Mama Ejira lived in a crumbling hut beyond the yam fields. Children were warned never to go there. They said Mama Ejira knew the language of owls and could call a snake from its hole by humming into a calabash. They said she once cursed a man's harvest because he mocked her limp, and that his cassava turned black in the ground. Some called her a healer, others called her worse things in low voices. But desperate hearts do not fear evil when they think evil can serve them. When Amara arrived, she found Mama Ejira sitting outside, picking leaves from a woven tray. The old woman did not look up immediately. "I have been expecting footsteps heavy with anger," she said at last. Amara shallowed. "Then perhaps you know why I have come." The old woman lifted her pale, clouded eyes. "I know only that envy has a smell. Yours reached my doorway before you did." Amara nearly turned back then, but pride pushed her forward. "There is someone," she said, "who stands where I should stand, someone who takes what should be mine." The old woman smiled, but it was not the smile of kindness. It was the smile of someone who had spent a lifetime observing how human beings destroy themselves. "And you want the path cleared." Amara hesitated only a moment. "Yes, The old woman plucked one last leaf and dropped it into the tray. The path can be cleared, but be warned, when the bush is set on fire for one snake, other creatures burn too. I am not afraid. The old woman laughed, a dry sound like seed pods rattling in wind. Then she leaned forward and whispered something into Amara's ear. When Amara left that hut, the sun seemed dimmer, though it was still afternoon. A hawk circled overhead. Somewhere in the tall grass, something unseen moved away from her feet. For the next few days, she behaved like the loving sister she used to pretend to be. She helped Adana cook. She fetched water without complaint. She even braided Adana's hair one evening and told her, "I have been foolish. I have allowed little jealousies to poison my heart. But you are my sister, my own blood. Whatever joy comes to you should make me happy too." Adana's eyes filled with tears. "Oh, Amara,"
she said, taking her hands. "I have missed you even while you were beside me." Those words should have pierced Amara with guilt. Instead, they irritated her. It was easier to hate Adana when she imagined cruelty. But Adana never became cruel, never became proud, never became wicked enough to deserve hatred. And so, Amara hardened herself further. A week later came the Festival of First Fruits, when the villagers gave thanks for the season's blessings. Drums sounded from morning until dusk. Women wore bright wrappers and strings of beads. Men poured palm wine and praised the ancestors. The air smelled of roasted plantain, goat meat, and wood smoke. Dancers stamped the ground until dust rose around their ankles like spirits. Chinedu found Adana near the dancing circle and spoke to her under the shade of a silk cotton tree. Many saw them together. Many smiled. It was even said that after the harvest, his family would soon carry kola nuts to Adana's father. Amara heard every whisper. Each one struck her like a slap. That evening, as twilight spread purple over the land, she approached Adana with unusual excitement in her voice. "Sister," she said, "come with me tomorrow morning to the forest edge. I want to show you something." Adana looked up from sorting dried pepper. "What is it?" "A place I found, a hidden place. There is a spring there and flowers unlike any near the stream. I thought, perhaps you and I could go alone, like when we were children." Adana smiled at once. "Truly?" "Yes. Let us leave before the others are awake. We have not had time together in so long." Adana's face softened. "Then I will come." Their mother overheard and seemed pleased. "Good," Nkem said. "Twins should not let the world separate their hearts." Amara lowered her eyes so no one would read what lay behind them. Before dawn, while the rooster's cry still echoed between compounds and mist clung low over the fields, the sisters wrapped their cloths tightly and set out beyond the village. The earth was cool beneath their feet. Crickets sang their last songs before sunrise. In the distance, hyenas called faintly from the grasslands. Chinedu walked cheerfully, speaking of little things, the color of the sky, the coming rains, the necklace Chinedu had given her, how she hoped Amara too would soon find someone who loved her well. Amara answered when necessary. Inside, her thoughts were beating like war drums. They crossed the yam fields. They passed the iroko tree where villagers tied offerings during planting season. They moved deeper toward the forest edge, where roots twisted above ground like sleeping pythons, and the air grew cooler. At last, they came to a part of the bush where the grass rose high, and the birds had fallen strangely silent. There, hidden by thorns and shrubs, was an old abandoned pit. Long ago, men had dug it for clay, but rains and time had widened it into a deep, shadowy hole in the earth. Creepers hung around its mouth. Loose stones lined the sides. Looking down into it, one saw only darkness and a glimmer of damp soil below. Adana stopped. "Why are we here?" Amara pointed ahead. "The spring is just beyond. Come and look." But Adana did not move. A chill had passed through her body, though the morning was not cold. I do not hear water, she said quietly. Amara turned to her. For one long moment, neither sister spoke. Then Adana looked into Amara's face fully. And perhaps because twins sometimes know each other beyond words, perhaps because blood recognizes danger before the mind can name it, her expression changed. Amara, she said slowly, what have you done? Amara's jaw tightened. What I should have done long ago. Adana stepped back. Sister! Do not call me that, Amara shouted, and the sound startled birds from a nearby tree. Her chest rose and fell violently. Years of bitterness poured out of her like poison finally uncorked. You took everything. Since we were children, they looked at you first, praised you first, chose you first. Even when I stood beside you, I was invisible. Mother's pride, father's joy, the village's favorite, Chinedu's choice. Everything went to you. Adana's eyes filled with hurt rather than anger. I never took anything from you. That is the cruelest part, Amara cried. You did not even have to fight. Things simply came to you. She stepped closer. Adana backed toward the pit, frightened now. Amara, listen to yourself. Whatever pain is in your heart, this is not the answer. Oh, but it is, Amara said, voice trembling. Once you are gone, I will no longer live in your shadow. Adana shook her head slowly, tears on her cheeks. You think your death will bring you peace. No, it will only invite darkness into your life. But Amara was beyond hearing wisdom. She had fed her hatred too long. It had grown teeth. Adana turned as though to flee, but her foot slipped on loose earth near the edge. She cried out and stumbled. In that terrible instant, Amara had a choice. She could have reached forward. She could have pulled her sister back. She could have saved her. Instead, she placed both hands on Adana's shoulders and pushed. Adana's scream tore through the morning air as she fell. Down, down into the darkness. A thudding crash rose from the pit, followed by a groan, then silence. Complete silence. Amara stood frozen. Her own breath seemed too loud. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. A cold wind moved through the grass, though the sun was beginning to rise. For several moments she could not force herself to look. When she finally stepped to the edge and peered down, she saw Adana crumpled at the bottom, one arm twisted strangely beneath her. Her wrapper had caught on a root. There was blood at the side of her forehead. But then, Adana moved. A weak sound floated upward. Amara. The voice was small, broken, barely human. Amara jerked back as if struck. She had imagined many things on the sleepless nights when hatred fed her plans. She had imagined relief. She had imagined triumph. She had imagined walking back to the village with a calm face while everyone searched in vain. She had not imagined hearing her sister call her name from inside the earth. Again the voice came, fainter this time. Amara, help me. Amara pressed her palms against her ears. No, no, no! Yet the cry rose again, scraping against her soul. Below, Adana was still alive, and the rising sun had begun to spill light across the land. If Amara ran back now, she could still bring help. If she called the hunters, if she called the farmers, if she shouted loud enough, they might come with ropes and branches. They might pull Adana out. She might live. But if Adana lived, she would speak. If she spoke, everything would be finished. Amara's future, her name, her place in the village, all of it. Then, from somewhere in the bushes behind her, came the low hoot of an owl. Amara spun around. There was no owl in sight, yet the sound came again, and with it she remembered Mama Ejira's warning. When the bush is set on fire for one snake, other creatures burn too. A terrible unease gripped her stomach. She looked back into the pit. Adana's eyes, dim with pain, were still lifted toward her, not with hatred, not with curses, but with pleading. That made it worse, far worse.
And then Adana whispered something that stopped Amara's breath completely. She said, "I am not alone down here." Amara stared. The shadows at the bottom of the pit seemed to shift. At first, she thought it was only her fear playing tricks on her. The dawn light was weak. Roots and stones made strange shapes. But then the darkness behind Adana moved again, slowly, deliberately, like something waking after a long sleep. A sound rose from below. Not a human sound, not the cry of any animal Amara knew. It was low and wet and ancient, like earth itself opening its mouth after years of silence. Adana began to struggle weakly, trying to drag herself away from whatever was behind her. "Amara!" she cried now, louder, terror cutting through her pain. "Amara, please!" Amara stumbled backward from the edge. The grass around the pit rustled, though no wind blew. Then a voice, not Adana's, not human, not animal, floated up from the darkness below. Two entered, but only one was offered. Amara's blood turned to ice, and just as Amara opened her mouth to scream, a hand, muddy, thin, and not entirely human, reached up from inside the pit and gripped the root near the rim. Thank you so much for watching. Part 2 is next, where more mystery unfolds.